Welcome to today's Piece of Peace. Quite a big day today. I start off with expressing to the Lord. I like this candle next to me. It kind of helps me. Focus that the Lord's presence is present to the time that I meet with Him. And I lit my candle, my coffee, got my journal, my Bible, my books, and I just start to try to bring my heart into a place of gratitude. And I say to the Lord, "Good morning, Lord. Thank you for this new day. And it's so warm and beautiful outside today. Though overcast, the air's like summer and my windows are open. I love that. Thank you for this joy and delight to hear the birds and feel the warm air as I meet with you this morning." He says to me, "It is my pleasure," which I love that he responds. So immediately he brings me to the fact that I had a dream last night that woke me up, and I knew there was a meaning behind it. So this dream was about a particular person in a family that I know. And I was working in what I think was my house, and I was putting something together. And it was profound and very fragile, but had a great substance and meaning to it. And I was outside my house looking in the window and expressing to another woman who was standing next to me, she was going to be working on this project too, and expressing to her the fragility of it and how fragile it was and how important it was to be very careful as we worked on it, because it would have an internal impact. And there was a gentleman from a particular family, friend of ours, and and very much a leader and very strong and prominent person, but knew of the situation that was going on and knew that there was a project being worked on, and kind of marched into the house and took charge, took all the work that was on the table and just moved it off with his hand to discard it because it meant nothing. And I'm standing there in shock. And I call out his name. I'm like, "What are you doing?" And I brought to his attention the fragility of what we were working on, and that he felt like he needed to take it upon himself to take charge and to lead this project. And yet it was already in the process, and it was already fragilely being taken care of. And I drew his attention to that and asked, "Why would you do that? And why do you think that your ability to lead would be any more important than the rest of us that are working on it?" And it was just a strange dream. And he apologized. And it started to bring up, I woke up after that, and it started to bring up, I had had a judgment towards him in this dream. Like, yeah, of course you would be like that, because that's how the rest of your family is as well. And take charge and just move in and take over and bulldoze. And I started to bring up in journal just every person in that family system that had betrayed me and some offenses that I had with them. And it's really painful. Yet God wanted to point out a couple things. One, we've been talking about what was compared to what is. What was, the way I've been responding was to be quiet about it and to sort of, instead of talk about my feelings about it, to act out my feelings about it. I had this incredible professor that said, when you're moving in a healthy realm, be it people, couples, families, churches, communities, you're talking about your feelings. And when you're moving in an unhealthy way, people, couples, families, churches, communities, they're acting out their feelings instead of talking about their feelings. And so God was starting to reveal to me that even through that professor of mine's teaching, I was noticing that the way I was responding to this family system was that I wasn't talking out my feelings about things that I felt offended about, or had an observation, and I would place a judgment on them, and maybe even a vow, like, "I'm not going to let you into my heart because you seem to be this type of person and you're hurting me." Two, I would just stop talking. and not engage. And that was me acting out my feelings instead of talking about my feelings. And the Lord started to bring up all of this pain from this particular family. But the other thing he wanted to bring out, the Lord drew my attention to, was the fact that this round, in this dream, I actually started to talk out my feelings. Like, why would you do this? And we were a whole bunch of us leaders were being able to handle this, and it was so fragile, and we were just expressing about how the fragility of it. And when you come in and do something like that, it wasn't even your place to do that. And there was a talking out of feelings instead of an acting out of feelings. So there was like a paradigm shift that was taking place, which is very important. It was as if God said, there's a paradigm shift taking place. You're no longer functioning in what was. You are functioning in what is. And there was a shift this past Monday that God really said, you're going to remember this date, May 18th, 2020, because there's a shift in the kingdom as far as how we function to how we are going to be functioning. And I start to see that start to play out over and over and over again. So this morning, the Lord has me write out all the offenses I had towards this family, because I no longer am going to be functioning in what was. I'm going to be functioning in what is. And he starts having me confess my judgments and my pains. And then ask for forgiveness and ask him to release those people and that family from them being held hostage to my unforgiveness again. Seems to be this piece, like he's augering out these weeds out of my heart, one after another after another. It doesn't make it any easier to go through it. It just is incredibly, excruciatingly painful as I'm realizing that when I am betrayed, what am I doing with that betrayal? How am I betraying others or myself or my God because of it? Teachings that I've had in the past about this. The Lord says, you've been through a lot in these last 13 years, Janelle. A lot of betrayal, and it has caused a lot of pain. I want to bring you freedom so I can use you fully. Dear daughter, allow me to heal these hurts. Allow me to cover these betrayals with my grace and my love. Allow me to set you free and release those that I also love from being held hostage to your unforgiveness. I am here. I know your pain. I see what has been done to you. You are my treasure and I love you. And he brought me through a series of just me repenting then and just offering up these things that have taken place and how I've responded to them. He says things are moving in an accelerated level, Janelle. More and more you will be dismantling these walls of protection. More and more you will be healing betrayals and demolishing judgments and unforgiveness. And more you and others will be set free. He says, I, the Waymaker, am on the move. And then through a lot of tears, I came into my devotion for today, which is called The Knife Angel, out of Our Daily Bread. You can download the app or you can order it online. Sheridan Yoise is the author of this particular devotion, and we're going to be reading in Isaiah 2, verses 1 through 4. He starts off in Isaiah. This is what Isaiah, son of Amos, saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem. In the last days, this is very profound. I really want you guys to tune into this. In the last days, the mountain of the Lord's temple will be established as chief among the mountains. It will be raised above the hills, and all nations will stream to it. Many peoples will come and say, come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the God of Jacob. He will teach us his ways, so that we may walk in his paths. The law will go out from Zion, the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. He will judge between the nations and will settle disputes for many people. They will beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation will not take up sword against nation, nor will they train for war anymore. And I think what the Lord was speaking to me in regards to this was just exactly what he had walked me through. He says, come, let us go. First he says, the mountain of the Lord of the temple will be established as chief among the mountains. God is going to be made known and chief among everything. It'll be raised above the hills and all the nations will stream to it. We are all going to be turning to him. He says that, come, let us go to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the God of Jacob. He will teach us his ways. So he's teaching me this morning. Janelle, you've been functioning. What was? You've been functioning this way. Like not talking about, not speaking about your feelings, but acting them out. That was what was. What is that you're going to be speaking about things. There's a paradigm shift taking place in the kingdom. He will teach us his ways so that we will walk in his paths. So he's teaching me the new way to walk. Repent from what was. Move forward to what is. A healthy stance. The law will go up out of Zion, the word of the Lord to Jerusalem, and he will judge between the nations, and he will settle disputes. He's going to, not me, not my way, his way. They will beat their swords into plowshares. So what he's talking about, we're going to take the weapons that we've used to battle each other, like my silence or my avoidance, and he's going to beat those swords into plowshares. So we're going to till the soil. We're going to cultivate something that's going to bring life instead of something that killed and brings death. Their spears into pruning hooks. Nation will not take up sword against nation, nor will they train for war anymore. There's going to be a level of peace that is going to come from our laying down of betrayals, or our laying down of our unforgiveness. Whatever it is that God's drawing or augering out of your heart, the weeds he's pulling out, what is it that you're going to? How are you responding to the betrayals of your life? Whatever that was is going to be changed to what is. And it's going to be about him. And we're not going to be pulling up our swords. We're not going to be taking out our fighting arms against each other anymore. There's going to be an incredible level of peace that comes to the world through our pieces of what we need to do. Our piece of peace. So that devotion says, it's called the Knife Angel. When knife crime rose across the United Kingdom, the British Ironworks Centre came up with an idea. Working with local police forces, the centre built and placed 200 deposit boxes around the country and ran an amnesty campaign. 100,000 knives were anonymously surrendered, some still with blood on their blades. These were then shipped to an artist, Alfie Bradley, who blunted them, inscribed them with the names of young knife crime victims, plus messages of regret from ex-offenders. All 100,000 weapons were then welded together to create the Knife Angel, a 27-foot-high angelic sculpture with shimmering steel wings. When I stood before the Knife Angel, I wondered how many thousands of wounds had been prevented by its existence. I thought, too, of Isaiah's vision of the new heavens and earth, a place where children won't die young or grow up in crime-breeding poverty. A place where knife crime is no more because all swords have been reshaped and given more creative purposes. That new world isn't yet here, but we are to pray and serve until its arrival. In its own way, the Knife Angel gives us glimpses of God's promised future. Swords become plowshares, weapons become artwork, and other redemptive projects can be conjured up. What other redemptive projects can we conjure up to glimpse that future a little more? I dare to say that is on earth as it is in heaven, and it is starting to happen now. That he is taking us from what is to what was to what is. And he's calling us to lay down how we've used our own swords and how we've used our own weapons to be a piece of that. And that he's bringing about a piece of his peace by augering out the weeds of our heart and seeing his ways instead of our ways. To be speaking about things instead of acting out things. What inspires you to combat evil? This is the question that he charges us with. What inspires you to combat evil? How can you work for peace in your community? It starts from a personal level. For me, it was laying down this pride, or laying down these judgments, or laying down this unforgiveness, and allowing him to bring peace. His prayer: Jesus, we can't wait until the world is at peace under your reign. Please move us by your Spirit to help us see your kingdom come in our communities, on earth as it is in heaven. Mine starts with talking out feelings and not acting out feelings. Mine starts with laying down pride and unforgiveness and judgments. What is your peace? What is your piece of peace? It brings us to Jesus Calling. Sarah Young. Download the app. Order the book. From God's perspective to us, I, the creator of the universe, am with you and for you. What more could you need? When you feel some lack, it is because you are not connecting with me at a deep level. I offer abundant life. Your part is to trust me, refusing to worry about anything. It is not so much adverse events that make you anxious as it is your thoughts about these events. It's not so much the betrayals, but what we do with them. Your mind engages in efforts to take control of the situation, acting out instead of talking out, to bring about the results you desire. Your thoughts close in on a problem like ravenous wolves. Determined to make things go your way, you forget that I'm in charge of your life. The only remedy is to switch your focus from the problem to my presence. Stop all your striving and watch to see what I will do. I am the Lord. There's today's piece of peace. Blessings.